What is it about movies and TV that we love so much? Is it the popcorn? Is it the ice cold soda? Is it the dialogue exchange? Is it the imagery? Is it going to places that we've never been? Well, for some of us, it's even the conflict. Regardless, along the way, there have been many firsts, and today we're going to look at 5 of those. I think it's safe to say that everyone has gone to the movies at least once. But have you ever wondered when the first time anyone ever went to see a film? You probably haven't, but luckily I have and put it in a video for you. The day was December 28th, 1895. The Lumiere brothers gave the first paid public screening of a film at the Grand Café in Paris, France. The brothers showed 10 short films, each lasting about 50 seconds long. What you are seeing is a clip of 2 of the films shown. Back then, each film had to be hand cranked through a projector. Another long-standing tradition that came from this was the very first movie poster. At this first showing, only about 30 people managed to find their way to the screening, but it was not very long before the brothers went on tour, showing their short films all around the world. For our next entry, we're going to jump ahead a year, to 1896. Movies and screenplays go hand in hand. It's pretty much impossible to picture one without the other when it comes to making movies. But believe it or not, we had nearly a decade of films before we ever had a screenplay. That all changed with Alice Guy Blache's La Fille aux Trois, or The Cabbage Fairy for our English speakers. The film depicts the classic French fairy tale in which boys are born in cabbages and girls are born in roses. Not only was it the first film to have a screenplay, it was the first film to be directed by a woman and was the first narrative film ever made. The early days of film were very different than what we're all used to nowadays. Today, a film with no narrative just seems pointless. But when it all started, films were just people living lives. It wasn't an established form of artistic expression yet. Unfortunately, the original 1896 film has been lost to time. What's being played is a 1900 reshooting of the original. Let's transition to television for next on our list.
All in the Family was recorded on tape before a live audience.
Cheers is filmed before a live studio audience.
Chico on Demand was recorded live before a studio audience at NBC Studios, Burbank, California.
The Jeffersons was videotaped in front of a studio audience.
Sanford and Son is recorded on tape before a live studio audience.
Three's Company was videotaped in front of a studio audience.
Maud was recorded on tape before a live audience.
Okay. That montage didn't need that many clips, but I was feeling nostalgic. Anyone that watched a sitcom in the 70s, 80s, or early 90s probably remembers hearing that at some point. What's playing here is I Love Lucy, the very first show to ever be filmed in front of a live studio audience. Also, clips of All in the Family, which was the first show to be recorded in front of a live studio audience. Although I Love Lucy was the first, it wasn't until All in the Family that mentioning it was popularized. This trend, like most television trends, eventually faded away, which eventually was followed by live TV in general being phased out. Daytime and late-night talk shows still use live audiences, but for the most part, sitcoms no longer use the format. Single-camera sitcoms dominate the airwaves now. Next on our list, everyone's favorite part of television.
America runs on Bulliver time.
What you just watched was the first television commercial in history. On July 1st, 1941, Bulliver showed an advertisement for their watches during a baseball game. The Brooklyn Dodgers versus the Philadelphia Phillies. As you saw, the commercial was only about 10 seconds long, much shorter than commercials are today. It was short and simple, straight to the point. I wish they still were today, honestly. Crazy to think of a time where shows weren't just completely filled with commercials. Given all the hype behind Super Bowl commercials, which is the only time people want to see commercials, it seems fitting that the first one happened during a sporting event. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any clips of the game itself, so what's showing is just baseball from 1941, a bit of the Phillies, a bit of the Yankees, just so you kind of get an idea of what people were watching at the time. What you are seeing is the only surviving stills of the first thing ever filmed with a motion picture camera, filmed with the very first single lens motion picture camera ever created. The camera and the short film were made by French inventor Louis Le Prince over 132 years ago. The short is called Round Hay Garden Scene, filmed in Leeds, England. Early on, films didn't have actors or anything and often just depicted people living life. Some people may be wondering, I thought Thomas Edison invented the motion picture camera, and for a long time, he was credited for inventing it. That's because unfortunately, before Louis Le Prince could show his invention and get the patent for his camera in the United States, he mysteriously disappeared. Now, this isn't a deep dive into the disappearance of Le Prince. The boys Ryan and Shane over at BuzzFeed get into all that. Link in the description for those interested. I will say one thing. I often wonder, what would Edison and Le Prince think of progress that we've made on cameras today, and how far we as a society have actually taken films? Alrighty, that will be the end of the video. I'd like to give a huge shout out to everybody who stuck around through the whole thing. I very much appreciate it. I apologize if there's any uneven sound throughout the videos. My very first video, getting better with the editing. If you guys like it, I have a very large list of many firsts for cinema and television. I can definitely make a part 2, 3, and 4. Please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching my show.